Okay.
Gotta get back on the live.
All right.
I think this might be. What is this? Is this the 50th show?
Is it?
This might be the 50th show. Let me double check. My let's see. Your videos. Yeah, this might be the 50th show, Grandpa.
Oh, okay.
All right, we're doing it now. We're 50 deep.
Oh, you don't gotta go nowhere, huh?
Who?
You know.
All right, well, we're live. We're back with the show. How you doing, Grandpa?
Who's back?
I'm saying the people who are watching us. We're back with the show.
Okay.
We're live.
Oh, we're live now?
Yeah, we're live.
Oh, okay.
Oh my goodness. So let's get right into Uncle Pooh Bear's getting his beer. Why don't you show us what you got, Grandpa?
Yeah, I was saying I feel like a traitor to the true beer drinkers, you know.
I don't feel like a traitor.
I was over in the beer section, you know, with all the beer, and I'd say, well, hey, this is a new kind of beer, you know. And this is what is known as White Claw hard seltzer with a mango taste. I say, now, I don't feel like a beer drinker with that mango taste, you know.
You sliding over to Uncle Pooh Bear's territory.
Yeah. You know.
In fact, we got some of that in the refrigerator.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, but we put vodka in it.
Oh, you enhanced it.
yeah. It's a good mixer for your vodka.
Yeah.
Oh, I could dig that. I didn't even think about that. That might be something to try.
Yeah. It's really light.
Yeah.
I got I'm posting that we're live, but I got hard cider forbidden fruit. Blueberry, blackberry.
Okay.
Beer either then, is it?
This is made with 100% Michigan apples.
Michigan apples. I saw that.
I
Okay.
got an apple downstairs. I'm gonna bring it up next week.
Okay.
we expanded in the show because I got something different too. You probably never suspect I love these red hard apple.
I never would have thought that.
I'm curious.
Man, on a hot day after a run, you out there sweating, you come here to drink one of these.
Introduce me to red or something. Somebody did.
Yeah, Crystal brought them.
Okay, I thought Crystal, the name when he said REDD, and I said, man, I might have had some of that before. I just couldn't remember.
Yeah, I think you like the pineapple one.
Oh, yeah, there we go. And I ain't had nothing since. I forgot.
You got to get you some.
I better write that down, you know.
Yeah. Well, you know, I only got a minute, so that's why I just grabbed something quick.
All right, well, since you got to hop off sooner than most, why don't you go first, Uncle Pooh Bear?
All right, I'm expecting a solid, let's see, a solid 5.
Solid 5, eh?
Yeah, I like it.
All right, solid 5.
No, I ain't got no foam on it, so I'm gonna start out with I gotta start with a 4.5. Gotta work up to a 5.
Gotta work up to a 5.
The beer taste there look like. So I'm gonna go 4.5.
Okay.
All right.
It's got a good smell. I might start off.
Oh man, like alcohol. Smell like beer.
I'll give it a 5.5 for this to start. I like Michigan apple, so we'll see.
Okay.
Go for it.
Well, cheers. Let's see what we got.
Cheers.
Cheers. There we go.
Yeah.
That's
good. This tastes like an alcoholic fruit roll-up.
That's pretty good too, you know.
Yeah.
I move up. I said I'm gonna start with I move up a half a point since I
going up to 5. You see, yeah, a good 5. Just what I expected. It goes to a 6 after a long run in the sun, and you come in sweating.
Yeah,
drink one of them. Oh, it go to a 6 then it's special.
Oh, this is.
I had to run today though.
Yeah, I ran earlier today.
This is a solid.
Yeah, I ran 4 miles this morning.
That's good. This is gonna be a solid 7 for me. This is a solid 7.
Solid 7.
This is good.
Don't abuse the 7 now.
No, I'm not abusing it.
I was after a while, you know, you be starting with a 8 and 9.
No, Grandpa, this is good. Like I might go back and get another box of this. This is
okay.
This is
You're gonna
decent.
you're gonna be a staple in the house, huh?
You know how you know why I like this? Because I had red cider. This doesn't have it doesn't taste super sweet. It doesn't like hurt your mouth when you drink. Like for people who
This
like
is pretty sweet.
yeah, for people who aren't really into super sweet alcoholic beverages, this has a nice taste to it, and it doesn't like make your teeth hurt or give you a headache or nothing. I don't want a couple of sips, but like it's good. It's good taste. Doesn't have any weird effects. This is good.
Excellent.
What about you, Grandpa? I know you never had a White Claw, so take us on that journey with you.
Yeah, you talking about the mango?
Yeah.
I told you it's pretty good there, but I move up to a 5 after I tasted it. I never even tasted it before. But it ain't bad,
Is it beer?
Well, we call it half beer.
It's a half
Yeah,
beer.
I think they call it is it like hard cider or hard spritzers?
What's the difference? I mean, is a cider just you got to be made of apples for it to be a cider?
Yeah.
That's possible, but like the spritzers are like like a wine spritzer, like think like soda water.
That's what this is.
Yeah, because it's not.
All is.
Yeah, it's a hard spritzer. The flavor isn't overpowering in there. It's real light and subtle.
Mm. No, I can see that. It definitely has a.
Huh? Chris, it's more like seltzer.
That's what the can say.
No, seltzer. Okay, it's a hard seltzer then. Yeah.
It says something about. I think I read something about. Oh yeah, hard seltzer.
Hard seltzer. Yeah, I knew it was an S word. All right, and so I don't have my. I was able to move my 115 to 315. So
okay.
I'm here for a good 17 minutes.
Okay, cool.
We'll hang in here.
What?
You ain't going now, or you got more time? Eh?
Yeah. At 1:30, at 2:30, I'll jump off.
Okay, very good.
So quickly then, my verdict. I'm gonna say this is still a solid 7. It might have moved up to a 7.5 for me. I definitely like this. What about you, Uncle Pooh Bear? Before we get into
I'm gonna stick with my 5 on normal drinking, but after a long run in the sun or cutting the grass on a hot day, or playing horseshoes. We done got into horseshoes now. We done bought us a horseshoe set. Yeah, got us a nice steel set, man. We out here real now.
You got a real, you don't let the people know on the internet. You got real steel in your house.
We got real horseshoes around here now.
I might get me some horseshoes since you.
Yeah, man, we ain't going nowhere, so we might as well get all the little fun activities you can around the house,
Virtual horseshoe tournament.
Come to Michigan though.
Oh yeah. When I come, you get your game up. Now.
I'll find me some horses. Where would I find them in the first place?
Amazon.
Yeah.
Amazon. I get everything on Amazon.
Oh, Amazon. Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
All right. Well, I think Grandpa, you staying at your 5?
Oh, no, I done moved up to 5.5 on this.
Okay.
5.5. You like that?
A whole solid point from when it began.
Yeah.
Hey, that's up there. That's up there with Budweiser.
Yeah, I think it's gonna pass Budweiser. Budweiser ain't that fast,
Oh man, this is big news here.
So you got some in the refrigerator, eh?
Huh?
So you got some in the refrigerator, right?
Yeah.
So then I ain't joking when I keep on moving up.
Yeah, it's solid. It's solid. You put a little vodka in there, though, it gets real good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to try that vodka idea. That's a solid idea. I like.
Oh yeah, man, it's a nice mixer.
I'm not even a big vodka person, but
and on top of that, probably kind of keep your stomach down too, probably with that stuff.
Yeah, because it don't got all that sugar.
That's what I'm thinking,
Yeah. That's why the taste isn't overpowering. It's just nice and mellow.
Oh yeah. Speaking of me and my track prowess, I told you about the WMA was programmed in Toronto this year.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And they canceled it because of the virus.
Yeah.
It's going to be in Finland, man.
When?
Next year. I mean, if the virus don't get us.
The virus ain't going.
They didn't say, they didn't give Toronto a second chance, so they moved them to Finland.
Dang.
Yeah, they don't want to be near these damn Americans.
Oh, that what it is?
they won't sit their ass in the house so the virus can go away. So we stuck.
But anyway, Finland. So you guys want to see somebody break some world records and all that stuff? I got a whole year, man, to shape up. Finland is the place.
Well, get in shape up so you can go ahead and run this 14-second 100 meters. But
15, 14.9. Yeah, okay, 14.9.
yeah. I mean, we gonna round down, man. Come on. Like,
Go do it, man.
we gonna round down.
Hey,
Believe.
say Tanaka, did you hear that?
Yeah. So yeah, and that's if we can get into the country, right? Because right now they banned.
Oh yeah, they won't let us. They won't let us go. They won't let you in Europe.
These selfish people won't
So United States would be barred. By all countries.
Well, it is what it is. But let's transition to the topic. So I said earlier that it's going to be about corporations' support of causes, and whether it's misplaced or not. Now, I thought about this because I saw earlier there was a picture talking about how, what is it, Jersey Mike's? That's what they did. Jersey Mike's said, we here at Jersey Mike's are always striving for greatness with our sandwiches, but also in our community, we have listened to a large cultural conversation and have decided that effective tomorrow, July 1st, our famous BLT, bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich will now be known as the BLM, the bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich. And then under that, this is Jersey Mike's.
Okay.
So I'm like, I get that. Like, it's like, what is first of all, let's define what is actual supporting a cause. Like, is it just symbolism, or do you actually have to do something to actually be supporting it?
Yeah, all of this, I keep saying all of this is cute, but really we just want the police to stop shooting and killing us. Like, this is cute. The support is all of that is dope, but like, where's the policy? Where's the teeth? Where's the procedure? You're ripping down monuments. Nobody asked you to do that. Like, we know that's nasty and terrible, and these are demons of individuals. Having it up is more of a reflection on who they are than anything, because you still allow that nonsense, but that still ain't doing nothing for it. So you take the symbolism down, you force the racism underground, and it still goes on unabated. So, all right, Jersey Mike, that's pretty dope. You made a sandwich named BLM. Like, okay, that's like a doctor walking up to me. I'm stabbed in my side, and the doctor says, well, let me shake your hand. Like, well, all right, you want to be courteous? Like, you're courteous, but I got a knife in my side. I'd rather you deal with the knife than be courteous to me and say hello.
Or a dentist who gives you that after you leave the shop, gives you some toothpaste and a toothbrush, and then gives your kid a sucker. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Like, we got another customer coming in. I mean, like,
we'll be back.
What were you about to say, Grandpa?
Yeah, I think we're at the fork in the road now. We can't go any further in that direction, so we're going to go to the right or to the left, whichever. When that's about the fork in the road. But I found out that you got to have the money. In any direction you go in, money is going to be the basis of it. Now, this sounds kind of way out, but this is where I'm coming from.
Uh-oh. I heard that preference before.
Mississippi finally decided to take down the flag of the Confederacy, right? But in taking down the flag, there was one thing that was very forceful, and that was money. They say, Mississippi, if you ain't gonna act right, we gonna take the money. And Mississippi fell in line and took down the flag, but it was money that did it. I'm looking at I'm looking at Zuckerberg now, who's talking about he bears no responsibility for what goes on Facebook. And then all of a sudden, the advertisement began to drop off. People say, well, I'm pulling out, because he ain't taking no responsibility. But the bottom thing, the key to the whole thing is money. Now, money moves mountains. I don't care what nobody says. But all these things, sometimes it takes years and years to get across. Money is the key element. So the Mississippi with the flag down, whatever it is, but if you look behind it, this is a capitalist country. And I found out that the bottom line is the dollar. I'm gonna give you a perfect example of what I'm trying to say is that I was talking to a friend of mine and we were talking something, I don't know, maybe some kind of a social event or whatever, you know, or maybe to criticize or whatever, or remove somebody from office or whatever. But the thing was this. The first thing we talked about, he said, well, you know, I did all right on my stock. I ain't so much in this, I did great, you know. So what I'm trying to say, the bottom line was money. He wasn't too much about getting off the path as long as he was making the money. Your 401k, somebody said, oh man, my 401k do great. Then all of a sudden when the money started going, then your thought process seemed to somewhat change. What do you say about that?
No, I agree. I mean, there's a lot of these companies and government officials, everything like that, who, you know, up until the point where people somewhat became unified and started rallying together under one voice and started saying we want changes, nothing was really happening. I mean, people been getting killed by the police for a minute. You know what I mean? This ain't nothing new.
Since the police were formed.
The Confederate flag has been here for a minute. Like all the stuff that like people are saying, they're all this big public outcry now that it's a problem. It's all been here, you know. Like it just.
I saw something that said white folks out here acting like black people was invented yesterday.
Go ahead, John. Like that's wild. It's like I do see where some people like who are detractors of all this are like this is just council culture, this is just mob mentality, and to a certain extent, I mean that's not a lie, because there are people who are who have just glommed onto this because they want to be a part of something just to be a part of it. Because when the next big issue comes up, they'll be the same people just with a different sign, and you know, waiting for the next thing to pop off. And it's like what Grandpa was alluding to, like, you know, we're at a fork in the road. Like, are we going to allow these small little acts of you know, changing names of sandwiches and like knocking down statues, which do nothing for us?
Nothing.
Are we going to, you know, pull together and get some real political power?
Let's go back.
Get some changes made.
Let me go back and say this about the money. Mayor de Blasio was on TV.
Who?
Mayor de Blasio of New York. I'm not saying his name right, de Blasio.
And he the governor?
The mayor of New York
City. The mayor. The governor is Cuomo.
He was on and he said, we're going to take some of the policing money, $1 billion of the money that's going toward policing, and we're going to use it for other things. Instead of sending the police out, we may send out maybe a psychiatrist or whatever it needs, you know. But the bottom line, what I'm trying to get at, that the money, you divert the money from this cause and you put it to another cause. So the police is policing if they have less money, and somebody else is going to get part of their job, you know. Well, their job was to knock you upside the head or whatever, you know. Then all of a sudden now there's no money for that, you know. But when you keep reinforcing, just like the United States, like the president, and all the military equipment that the police are getting, what you're doing, you're reinforcing something, you know. Man, they look like stormtroopers out there.
Yeah, seriously.
So you divert some of that money and put it over here, and then you have somebody maybe can help on this side, you know.
Well,
am I getting?
No, you're saying what actually defunding the police was supposed to be. People hear defund and they think eradication.
No, Josh. No, he's saying what defund the police means. The people are saying they're hearing ratification. This is just spin. This is classic American, I want ignorance in the place. So they're just spinning distraction with this bullshit about, they're talking about eradicating the police. Like, these people know damn well what the term means and what the ask is. But they're deliberately doing that. But go ahead, brother.
Yeah, man,
I don't give them no credit, right?
No, I agree with what you're saying. I'm just saying I know actual people. Well, I've heard actual people say that they think that this means police are going to get eradicated, and I'm just like, what do you mean? Like how? Why would that like like why? Like I think some people just jump to extremes. Like why does it have to go to that part? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I hear people talking about like the president, like Trump is the president right now. It's like, you know, he's the president right now. Why can't y'all just get on the same page and just get through it? And I'm just like, I understand what you're saying, but when something else comes up like this, and we're all just saying, let's just, you know, get through this, let's try to get some police reform, and y'all stuck up on, you know, because someone said defund it, not something else. Like it's just people want to argue because they want to argue.
Well, they want to argue because they want to distract because they have no intention of yielding anything. So as long as they can spin you with conversation and distraction, and you just keep arguing over this point, that point, that point, this point, that point, this point, that point, this point, no progress happens. And then they don't have to budge from their positioning, of which they're not going to budge because they are nasty individuals. I got other choice words.
Look, let's somewhat try to dissect police, the word police. From my understanding now, and I hope somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. Back in the days of Robin Hood, you had the sheriff, the county sheriff, or whatever, you know. You had the military. But the police was created for runaway slaves. That was a created position, and it extends now.
Slave patrol.
Huh?
The slave
patrol to run, get the runaway slaves. So that's what the policing is. So now what you have is you have a police who's acting like they're the slave patrol, which they ain't. They're supposed to be out to help the people, but are they doing that? No, they utilizing that particular police power to disrespect people, you know. Am I getting to what I'm trying to say?
No, I see what you're saying, and like the big part of reform is you got to get people like that out of policing. Like you said, the police are supposed to help people. You're supposed to protect and serve, and
right.
And to the other point, everybody
I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna jump back into the conversation.
Okay.
I'll be back.
All right, let us know. Let us know if you need to get another invite.
Okay. Yeah, I got the link. I'll be back.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, but yeah, Grandpa, it's and to the other point of that is, like we were saying before, it should be like other people doing certain jobs. Like everything shouldn't be a police officer's job. You know what I mean? Sometimes, like when you call a dispatch emergency, like there should be a position to help with certain things that you don't need a police officer for. Like people are talking about mental health issues. Like you don't need a police officer to do that. You need someone trained in those things. And part of this restructuring of monies from the police department will go to that. And it'll be for the betterment of everybody.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
So what were you?
Getting back to Mark Zuckerberg. I don't know. My understanding, he's worth about $85 billion.
It's a lot of money. I don't know how much he's worth.
Well, anyway, from there on up. But he has a platform for people to expound on their hatred and disrespect, whatever, you know, anything you want to say was all right for his particular platform. Because he says, I'm just a gatekeeper. I'll let you in, you know, but I'm not going to police you while you're in there.
Right.
And somebody's saying, well, you do some responsibility should be on your part, you know. You can't make all the money and don't have no responsibility for all the problems you're going to cause, you know.
Right.
So the people advertising were agreeing, say, well, look, you're not bearing no responsibility. Well, let me take I got people who buying from me too, you know. So let me take my money from your advertising. You bear no responsibility who you let on and do what you want to do. I'll take my money somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And so in the big corporations, that's why I was saying about money. Money is the key. The big corporations say, well, hey, you know, I ain't dealing with Facebook. I ain't, and all of a sudden, Facebook profits start to dropping, you know. But the money was the one that did it, you know. You can tell Zuckerberg, hey, I don't care, you know. Hey, this is my platform, you know. I let anybody use and say what they want to say, you know.
And that's pretty much the stance of most people, because it's like if it's not affecting me, it's not my problem.
It's not my problem. That's right.
I think we.
But then people are saying, yes, it is your problem if you're allowing stuff to happen that shouldn't happen. You can't have a platform and let anybody use, like a guy say, you can't have property, man, and let somebody. I think I don't know, Biden might have said it. You can't own no property and let somebody dump all kind of toxic wastes on your property, or let somebody use it for, for illegal purposes and say, hey, I just rent it out, Right. No, it's not gonna work like that. You gotta bear some responsibility and say, hey man, you can't dump this toxic stuff on my property. You go somewhere else with your stuff, And I agree with that, You gotta bear some responsibility for what's going on.
I think in terms, no, I agree with what you're saying, Grandpa. It's just interesting that I've seen a few during all these all these causes, not just Black Lives Matter, but just any insert cause here. I've seen a lot of corporations, like I think it was Pride Month last month, and like every corporation just like they put a flag on any of their paraphernalia, right? And it's like, we support gay people and things like that, or the LGBTQ plus, or I'm not sure exactly what the organization is called. And it's just, you see people just like always support. Like, what does support mean? Like what? I don't know. I haven't read every corporate bylaw. I haven't seen everybody saying like, I've seen. I saw a commercial yesterday about Sprite saying they're going to donate money to the Black community, right? And like it's rare to see a corporation say directly they're going to help support insert community, right? They always say they always say people of color, and to me, it's like that's a weird catch-all term when something's affecting or a cause is about like Black people, or causes about Latino people, or causes about insert anybody. You should be talking directly to the people you're trying to help directly. Like when you say people of color, I mean, like that could be anybody. You know what I mean? Like where is that money going? Like just like you say, there has to be a certain amount of accountability as to who you're helping. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I started out talking about this capitalist country where the bottom dollar, the bottom line is the dollar.
Mm-hmm.
In capitalism, you gotta make a profit. That's the bottom line.
Right.
Okay. I'm gonna say this to show you about what the bottom line does with money. During the Birmingham or the Montgomery bus boycott, when Rosa Parks had to give up her seat, which she refused to do, and they jailed her, right?
Mm-hmm.
It would have went on, except money. When Rosa Parks was jailed and refused to give up her seat on this bus, and the people said, well, if we're not going to ride your bus. What does it boil down to? Money, right?
Yeah.
The bus company, man, they went almost belly up because they got no riders. Even though they were enforcing this law about going to the back of the bus, when the time comes for money, they come to find out, hey, man, our whole thing is people riding this bus, and they basically Black people. If they start riding, we got no bus. So what happened? The bus almost bellied up. And they decided then, but what I'm trying to say, it was money that did it. Man, you can't have a segregated bus if you don't have no passengers.
But that takes commitment. Like the people who are affected by it need to be standing together. Like ain't none of us.
They were committed to the cause because they were tired of getting in the back of the bus when you bought a seat for the bus.
No, I agree with you. I'm saying they did, but like in order for that to work now, like
go ahead.
And just like how that stuff worked back then for a number of reasons, other than the fact that people were committed. It was the fact that up until that point, to my knowledge, you didn't really see a whole bunch of that. Where and like corporations have seen, like everyone, like we know our history. Corporations and people who would try to do harm also know the history, and they have made ways to counteract it. Like for example, like what is it? It's escaping me. I can't think of what I just was about to say, but it takes discipline to the root of it, and it can't be one of those things where you know, people were marching for like the past month or so. People have been talking and things like that. But it can't be like when things seem just a little bit better that everyone stops. It has to be like we have a clear goal in mind, and these things, however we're going to go about it, isn't going to stop until we get the change we want. And I think just like how you said in the bus boycott example, like didn't that last over a year?
Yeah, it was over a year. It was a year, a little bit more than a year.
So like people were dedicated to walking or
to a cause.
Yeah, they're dedicated to the cause, but they were willing to.
But the bottom line was money, right?
You know, what I'm saying, Grandpa, the people who were fighting for that change were dedicated to not riding the bus, which means they had to walk wherever they were going or find some other means of transportation to take the bus.
Got together as a group.
Yeah, but like that takes major dedication, especially for people who don't have the means to there wasn't a lot of other options, you know, for Black people back then. So like they really had to be dedicated, and we just live in a society, in my opinion, that that makes leisure such a high.
Well, let me say this then first. Rosa Parks was not the first person that challenged that system.
Right, I know.
Right. But the only thing that made the change was money. When the people quit riding the bus, you can challenge the system and say, I'm not going to go to the back seat and the police come and they arrest you and all this kind of stuff, but you haven't affected the pocketbook.
Right.
Now, when you quit riding the bus, when ain't no money coming in, there ain't no bus line, you know. So how you gonna discriminate against somebody riding the bus when there ain't no bus because the people that riding the bus decided not to ride the bus? So there's no bus, there's no profit, but it always bottoms out to the dollar. The dollar is the key. Now this is me speaking, but every time I see some changes, just like I said with the Mark Zuckerberg, all of a sudden he was losing hundreds of millions of dollars on advertisers because he says, not my responsibility. But I bet you one thing, he's gonna make it a responsibility to put a gate up there and don't let everybody come on there with a hated thing and say what they want to say, you know.
Right. Well, what I'm saying, get back to your point about the money. Like, how are we as a people going to accomplish this goal, right? If the goal is to reform the police or whatever, or then, you know, I'll say, like, I always talk about reparations to get that, like, what steps like needs to be taken? Like, how much unification do you need? Like, how many people? Like, where's the money going to come from for like the lobbying? Like, these are real things that have to happen in order for change to happen. You know what I mean? And how, like, it's also like, how do you change the minds of people who see this whole thing as just like a fraud, you know?
But you answered your question. You said money.
Yeah, I said where? Like, how does that happen? Like, where is that going to come?
The money, when the money comes up, the problem is solved.
Yeah, and how I'm saying the solution, like, you have to get the money. How are we going to do it?
You got people in the streets now walking, going door to door, getting somebody to vote for a certain person in order to get this money. But however you get the money, money is the key. If you see what I'm trying to say, if the money is involved in electing people and get them in the office, who's going to help you on your cause, it's still money, you know.
So let me ask you. So you see, we see a lot on TV about how politicians and people in general say Black people need to vote more and everything, without really saying what the Black people are voting for. You know what I mean? What are we getting out of our vote? Like, how do we demand more for our vote, Grandpa?
How do we demand more for our vote?
Yeah.
Putting somebody in office that's gonna contribute to our cause, and it all.
No, I understand.
I'm trying to get back to this parallel of making money. You get somebody in there and fight, and then you figure a way to get the money.
No, but I'm saying, like, there's things that have to happen, right? Like, you just picking someone to vote for doesn't mean anything. Like, how do you get that person to do what you want them to do once you got them in office, right? Do you lobby beforehand? Do you lobby after? Do you lobby during? Is it the whole process just you throwing money at the person until they do what you want them to do and make sure they get in office? Like, what is it?
Well, you lobby, the people that you lobby is the people going to get you that money. Mm-hmm. You got the wrong people that's lobbying for you, ain't going to get that money. Mm-hmm. So this is what I'm saying. The bottom line is always money. Whatever we need to do, we got to have some money to do it with.
Right, but Grandpa, I think you're missing the point of what I'm saying.
Well, let me hear it.
So what I'm saying is, there's different types of voting, right? There's the voting where you have a ballot and you go in, but like there's also voting with your dollars, which is what you're saying. But how do you get people unified and just like, hey, this is the cause we're going for, right? Because there seems to be a lot of misconceptions of what people are wanting to happen. So how do you do that? You know what I mean? Like what ways do you get people unified? Because like with the bus boycott, like who organized that, right? Who made sure that people stayed on the path of not riding the bus? That's what I mean. Like you got to keep people on the path, right?
Before the bus crash, somebody sat down and figured out we can defeat these people by destroying the money that they were getting in as a profit.
Right. We know that, but I'm saying, how do you get people to stay on? How do you get people to stay on the path?
Yeah. When you stay on the path, when you're successful in doing what you're doing, a lot of things we should have been unsuccessful in doing, except that we backed off. But I'm still saying that bottom line is money,
Right, but like, do you think that's going to happen? Do you think people are going to maintain the path? Is what I'm saying. Because you just said there's plenty of things that we did before that we backed off, and this change just didn't happen. Mm-hmm. So I'm saying like the bus boycott worked because everyone was willing to make that sacrifice of not taking the bus, right? They're willing to walk all the way to and from work, all that good stuff. What's going to make people like? Are we at the point where we're all just going to be like, we're all sick of this happening, and we're just going to ride it until these changes happen? Or do you see people falling off? Like, you think people are just going to like, okay, we got some tertiary changes, but like the real change didn't happen, so but we're good with these changes. You think people are going to go all the way through?
I'm going to revert to talking about the Civil War and slavery, and we know that slavery was not the reason for the succeeding of the South from the North. It wasn't about slavery. It was about free labor, right?
Well, that's slavery.
Huh?
I'm
saying, but let's forget about the slavery, because if you can get free labor without slavery, it's still free labor. The North had the textile mills, the South got the cotton fields. If it don't cost you nothing harder to raise the cotton because you got free labor, how can the guy in the textile mill compete with you? You're gonna get rich and he gonna go broke. Mm-hmm. See, so I'm just saying it's all about the money, and that's what it was about during the Civil War. It was about the money. Mm-hmm. I think Abraham Lincoln said himself, if he could keep the Union together without freeing the slave, he would do so. This is my understanding now.
No, I remember that.
But it always boils down to money. You're making a fortune to make the South rich, and it don't cost them nothing, but some free labor. The guy on the other end of the stick, he gonna say, "Hey man, it's enough of this. Enough is enough,"
I get that. I'm just saying, like, what's the modern day equivalent of that sweeping change happening? Like what has to happen for that to change? Like, because you're saying the money needs to change. Like, maybe I'm not understanding. So
okay, let's say about what's happening now. Let's go back to the demographics. Let's go back to Richard Nixon when he talked about the Southern strategy. When I was a kid, there was nobody in the South would ever vote a Republican. There were 13 solid states, and they were all Democratic states, and they would never vote Republican, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, 13 states, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, North Carolina, Arkansas, whatever it was, but they always voted Democrat. Now, what happened then that these Democrats all of a sudden became Republicans? But like I was saying, they didn't become Republicans, they became Dixiecrats. They went over there to stop this thing of progression for people in free states. Mm-hmm. So like right now, we got Democrats who didn't go with the Dixiecrats. They stayed in the Democratic Party, but the same ideology that they had is still there. This is why come you don't have a solid, you don't have a solid Democratic Party, because you still got some folks that were Democrats when it was a 13 solid state. They didn't go with Nixon and his Southern strategy. They stayed, but they voted along with Nixon and his Southern strategy.
Can you speak on what that Southern strategy was?
Huh? The Southern strategy was?
Yeah, speak on that.
Yeah, the Southern strategy was to break up that Democratic South. And he did it well. Nixon did it. That was the Southern strategy, break up that Democratic South.
How did he do it?
Huh? No, so right now you got a Republican, these red states, they were all blue states. When they weren't blue, they were Democratic states up until Nixon. Now you got Alabama and Georgia voting Republican. They ain't never voted no Republican from the time that I was a kid. I never remembered it. It was always the solid South Democratic. Now, how in the world can it now be all Republican unless there was that Southern strategy of division, divide us?
What was that? What actually happened?
It was a Southern strategy. Richard Nixon running for election. He says they've tried all kind of strategy, but this particular strategy was the Southern strategy was to divide the Democratic Party. So this is what happened when Nixon was. In order to divide the party, you got a lot of Democrats, which was 13 solid Democratic states, all of a sudden became Republican because they liked Nixon's philosophy.
Which was what?
Are you with me?
Yeah, I said, which was what?
Huh?
Which was what? What was his philosophy?
To divide the party. Our Democratic, those 13 solid state Democrats became Republican. Why do you call them red states now? That was his strategy.
Yeah, but I'm saying
they were blue states. Well, you could say they were blue states. Go ahead.
I'm saying, like, how did they go about changing it? Like, what philosophically happened? Like, how did he do it? Like, there's got to be.
They come up with a whole lot of things, social programs like the welfare states, and the lady. Remember, they were talking about.
You talking about the welfare queens and all that?
Welfare queens. What was this guy who was in charge of the Republican Party? He died and he apologized for the discrimination that he caused with this thing about the welfare queen. And was something else was predominant, but anything had something to do with social programs. And They thought to divide us, they're thinking that we're getting all these different social programs and not providing nothing, which was a lie,
That's wild.
Yeah, it's heavy. But like I say though, if you were to see back in the 50s when George Wallace, he was a Democrat, right? And you should see the hatred. He even apologized for what he done, because I think George Wallace made some kind of a statement. He lost an election because he said something like, I didn't use that N-word enough.
Wow.
Huh?
I said, wow.
That George Wallace said that. He said, I didn't use the N-word enough. He said, but from now on, never will be a time that when I run for office, that I don't use the N-word. And that propelled him up to where he was now, where he was running for even the state of Michigan, I think, had voted for George Wallace, because he was using the N-word. The N-word was a weapon. George Wallace, before he died, I think he was saying he apologized along with the other Republican who was head of the Republican Party. I can't recall his name, but somebody who was listening will agree with, what the guy's name was, and he apologized for doing it. But they always inject this black-white thing,
Right. No, that is interesting. It's interesting, like how politics like changes history like that just based on a plan. But I mean, I guess to circle it all back to what we were talking about, like how corporations, like what they can do, and like what things are just hollow. What were you gonna say, Grandpa?
No, I was gonna say let's go. I've been in reference to Cuba. And they were saying, now this is where the sides divided.
Mhm.
They said that Cuba was a communist country and Castro was a dictator.
Mhm.
But did they ever say that Batista, which they put in the power when Meyer Lansky and all of them and the mafia ran Cuba, where a black person couldn't get no education, couldn't do nothing. So why, like I said, when Castro came in with his revolution, they nationalized a lot of stuff in Cuba. My man, Marco Rubio, his father was from Cuba.
Marco Rubio, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, he's a senator from the state of Florida.
Really?
Yeah. So his father was a Cuban. He left during the Castro regime. Marco was born here, but his father came.
Mm-hmm.
But did you see the migration of black people leaving Cuba? They were liberated. They were liberated from what was going on. Batista, man, got blood on his hands. He was killing blacks by the thousand. And nobody never say a word, and they don't talk about it now. All they think about Castro being a dictator. And they talk about communism. How many black people have been destroyed by the word linked to communism? Paul Robeson, all he wanted to do was help his people. But they put a label on you and make you something different than what you truly are.
Ooh, I like that.
Walter Luther went to Cuba. I'm not to Cuba. Walter Luther went to Russia along with his brother to learn unionism.
That might be next week's topic, labeling.
Okay, well, let me say this about the label.
Mm-hmm.
He was never labeled, Walter Luther wasn't labeled a communist. He created the unionism. He fought to get the unionized, but he wasn't labeled. But Paul Robeson went over there, and he didn't go as an organized nothing. But he come back to this country, they take his passport and call him a communist. And black people by the thousand have lost their careers by being labeled communism when they didn't even know what communism was. All they know was that the social programs were not justified within this country. There was no justification for these different social programs, but they labeled them communists. We had back in the day, in order to get any sense of any respect, decency, we had people to go to France. The Catherine Dunhams, the James Baldwins, the Hughes, and all of them went over there and wrote because this country refused to give them a voice to speak. Now that's the truth. That's just part of the truth.
I was gonna say that's the wealth, man. You dropped a knowledge bomb on us today.
That's just part of the truth. But all I'm saying is this: is that let's respect. We put sanctions on Cuba. Cuba cannot hurt us. Cuba can't do nothing. It's a little island of 8 or 9 million, 10 million people or something. But we got sanctions on them. We ain't got no sanctions on Russia. Russia was our base enemy. We fought them, man, in the Cold War for years and everything. But they don't even enforce the sanctions they got now up on Russia. When Randolph was fighting for South Africa, when Randolph was fighting for South Africa, he was saying,
Randolph?
Huh?
Who's Randolph?
Yeah.
Who?
Huh?
Who is Randolph?
I got a book on him. He's got a book called The Big Lie, over here. But anyway, he was fighting to put sanctions on South Africa because people don't understand. When England pulled out of South Africa, the Boers, the Dutch took over South Africa. They started the apartheid. And there was never a word of getting back from the United States with any kind of sanctions. And they begged to put sanctions on them so that they could stop what they were doing to us,
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't sanction them. We put sanctions on Cuba. Cuba can't even do nothing to it. We ain't put no sanctions on South Africa when they had us, man, killing us by the hundreds, if we even spoke out. But then Fidel Castro came over and stopped that over in Namibia, Angola and everything. He stopped it. So He may be your enemy, but he's my hero, Fidel Castro.
I mean, and people are going to look at you wild for saying that, but it's.
I understand, because one guy was saying, "Why would you want to go to Cuba?" I said, "If you understood what I knew about Cuba, I know that Cuba was a Spanish territory. We took it, but we didn't change the lives of the Cubans."
Right. It's weird because it seems that like America is such a like it's a melting pot, but there's different heroes and villains for everybody. Like,
how you know?
Like in certain parts of the world, they don't call Alexander the Great Alexander the Great. You know, they call him Alexander the Terrible because those people were affected by the conquest. Like, you know, the same, and like it was in Hinduism, in Taoism, or whatever. Like they're like, I think it's forget what two different religions are, like enemies of each other. But like the gods in one religion are the demons in others. Like, but it's people are so staunch on that believing that whenever a government or an entity labels someone as an enemy, if you don't see them as an enemy, then you're a bad person. Yeah. And you know, then people will turn around and say when they have a disagreeing opinion on you, they'll tell you that you're not being open-minded, but listen to my opinion, when they themselves don't want to. They just want you to agree with them. And I've done that before. I'm a victim. I shouldn't say victim. I've been that type of person who will close off something because I just think it's ridiculous. But I mean, I'm like being 30. I all I heard about Castro was he was a bad dude. Yeah, I didn't know anything about it.
The history of what happened over there the whole history isn't told. When the people left Castro, left Cuba, and he nationalized the oil or whatever, you know, this thing, he nationalized the stuff. A lot of people lost their property, and they came on and make him a bad dude. But did you know, at the time when he began to have his revolution in Cuba, you couldn't drink at a fountain in Florida. So why would a Cuban go to Florida to face the same things he's facing in Cuba? They got the black fountain, the white fountain. Now, why should I go if all of a sudden I'm beginning to become free? Why should I go over there and be enslaved again?
Right. And it's interesting that you brought up the nationalization of the oil, because in the Middle East, haven't they done that already?
What's that now?
Like in the Middle East, like in Dubai or, you know, Iran and all that. I forgot which countries it is, but doesn't everyone get like a share of how the oil profits do? Isn't that what that is? Isn't that nationalizing the oil?
When they nationalize all, yeah, the government takes control when you nationalize something. There's a lot of property right now in Cuba. In fact, we would lift the sanctions if some of the property was given back to the property owners who had the sugarcane farm ranches and the cotton fields and things. If they could get that back, we'd drop off the sanctions. There wouldn't be no sanctions in Cuba. But Cuba's no threat to the United States, except in that.
I remember hearing that that Russia was trying to put missiles on Cuba or something.
They did.
Like during the Cold War. Like
let's go back to this now. The United States was already for the revolution in Cuba. They had no problem with it until they found out that Castro was a socialist. That he was going to unite Cuba, give the people a share of the profit. Because you got to remember now, Havana was run by the mafia. Meyer Lansky back in the 30s, they propped up Batista.
Mm-hmm.
And he got blood on his hands because he killed a lot of thousands of black people. And this is, I'm talking, this is factual. So with things was going good until they found out that Castro was more of a socialist, that he was for the people. And Castro, they saw it on television. A lot of people who were there for the profit, Castro put them up to the firing squad. And this was on TV. He put the people up who weren't for the revolution. He got rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
And in every revolution, you get rid of the people who going to destroy you. You know, you get them first, and that's what happened. You know, I mean,
That's
if
interesting.
you could some recorded history, you could see it. You could see Castro getting rid of some of the people who were thought that by taking Cuba, they're going to get a share of the pie, but he found out that was his enemies, and he got rid of them.
I mean, that's interesting though. What you bring up about how he was about sharing the wealth with the people.
We live our sanctions on Cuba tomorrow. If we could give back the property and stuff that people had that they left, but they took the money with them, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason Cuba wouldn't be a success story because we won't let them be a success story. Anybody deal with Cuba, then we don't have no dealing with us, you know. And this is why they look like they're in poverty in this system, you know. I don't know.
That's true. I mean, well, what, like, as it relates to like the original topic, which was talking about like corporations and like, you know, supporting whatever causes, like, what was it? Is this new? Have corporations ever outwardly had support of this magnitude or of this sweeping change, like when you're growing up, or is this like a relatively new thing? Like, did corporations support causes back then?
They boycotted corporation boycotted a lot of different things, but it always wound up to the bottom dollar money, you know. If I say that I'm going to boycott you and I'm not going to do this unless you do so and so and so, if it affect your bottom line, then you're going to do otherwise. You know?
No, Grandpa, I'm asking you, like, is this new? Like, have corporations ever outwardly supported causes in the manner in which they're doing now? Or is this just like, has this happened before?
No, never on a basis like it is now. No. Oh. If they had we wouldn't have the problem we got here in this country today.
So is it? Do you think that these are? I think some of these might be well-meaning. Like, do you think that it should have been a that this is something that's good in your opinion?
Is something good?
Do you think this new change in corporations supporting?
Yes, I think it's good. I think it's good because, like I said, we're in a capitalist country, and the bottom line is money. The corporations got the money, and they don't want nothing to interfere with them making money, so they make decisions to make sure that their bottom line isn't affected. And that's basically what it is. That bottom line is the dollar. I got no problem with that because I see it 1,000 times among not only just people who get affected big, but on small people. When they're making some money off of their stock, therefore whoever is in charge is making the money for the stock. Right. And they care less about some of the social programs. Guys say, well, hey, yeah, that's bad, hey, but I'm making money, you know. And that's when I found out it's all about money, you know. You're making money, you go along with the program. You ain't making no money, you go against the program, because the whole thing is this is capitalism. And the bottom line is the dollar.
So what do you think is ultimately going to come of all this? Like, you think we're going to you think it's going to actually be a meaningful change, or, you know?
It's definitely going to be a meaningful change. And I'm happy to see this in my time, because here's the thing about this too. With change, everything is a change. Demographics is a change. We got people who aren't talking about heritage of the Confederacy and their great grandfather thing. They're coming from the North, and they're all over the United States now. Mm-hmm. And so that one solid South ain't the solid South no more. And you're going to see some red states become blue states, because it's a change. I got a book by what you going to buy more? I can't think of it. But anyway, he was talking about a change, a time of change, and this is a time of change. You know, the demographic is changing. You know, I was born in the North. I might move south. You know, somebody born in the South, they come north. You know, and they ain't carrying the same. South people born in the North ain't talking about something that happened back in 1860. In fact, they might be a first generation American, and got no idea of what they're carrying, You got first, second generation American. I'm a what? I can trace my heritage back to 1787, Well, a lot of folks only first generation, they can only go back 30, 40 years, to become Americans.
Now that's interesting, Grandpa, because that's in particular in the Black community. It's hard to know our heritage that far. Like, so how did you do that?
Oh no, because right now you have this ancestral thing,
Uh-huh.
And I can change, and they can tell, like, somebody was born here, and you chase their parents, they came from Georgia, and you go a little bit further, and they were in North Carolina, then you're going a bit further because census and all that.
So
their parents come across on a boat. These are statistics. They got the stuff written down.
So you did the thing. Well, who did you go through? What did you use? What was it? It's ancestry.
The ancestral thing.
So what did did they take blood? Did you have to? What did they do? Like, how are they?
You get a drop of your saliva or whatever, when you send it in, they can tell exactly, probably where your parents originated from, through a long line of succession. It might have come from Nigeria or Ghana.
How long did that take?
Huh?
How long did that take?
For the ancestral thing?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know, a couple of months, I guess.
That's interesting.
It's you see it on TV advertised all the time now anyway.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. I've been going back and forth whether I want to do that or not, but it's definitely, that sounds cool. I didn't even know you did that. You have to show me the results one day.
Oh no, I'm trying to think. I think your dad, he did it.
Well, he said he did he traced back he didn't send his DNA in or nothing. He said he just went to the computer and kept clicking.
He went back to 17 something.
Yeah.
A lot of the names I know of,
Mm-hmm.
I know my people migrated from North Carolina into Georgia, and from Georgia to Michigan. I can go back even further than that,
Oh, yeah. That's cool, Grandpa. Well, I think we might be winding down on this episode. I don't think Uncle Pooh Bear is coming back. It's a big meeting.
Well, it kind of give me a chance to, I don't know, to speak out. But only thing I ever ask is that when you tell history, let's tell the whole story. Let's not propagandize it. Let's tell the whole story.
Right.
Like I was talking about Cuba and why I was so concentrated on Cuba. I'm saying that the liberation of Cuba from the Spanish, we played one heck of a role in it, Teddy Roosevelt of San Juan Hill, and everybody talk about who went up San Juan Hill, who took San Juan Hill. Let's tell the whole story. Don't just say Teddy Roosevelt took his sword and he ran up San Juan Hill and he did this to the Spanish. No. And then when we took Cuba, we didn't make it no better. We took Cuba, and it wasn't like your liberation or nothing. Like I was saying, because Cuba was the same as Miami, Florida. They were still lynching people over there in Cuba and listening to people in Miami and down in Florida, where you couldn't even go on the beaches. Miami Beach was off limits to Black people unless you were working there.
Hmm.
That's a fact, and I'm not trying to hide none of it.
Well, cool. I mean, that we got think about this one though, Grandma. Next week's topic has got to be labeling, and that was some powerful stuff you said there. We got to deep dive that.
Oh, about the labor union?
No, like labeling, like how people labeled someone and they became enemy.
Oh yeah.
I like that. We might have to get some more people in on that one. That's good. I like that. But all right, well, you got any last thoughts, Grandpa?
Well, the only thing I can say is that White Claw.
You gonna buy more White Claws? What you're saying?
No, I got. Hey, I tell you what. I thought I was buying beer. 7 or 8 cans of flavored beer. I thought. I guess you could call it beer, but it's got alcoholic contents.
Yeah. Well, cool. You gotta sign off, Grandpa. You give some words of encouragement.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Till next week.
That's encouraging. All right, Grandpa. Thanks again, Grandpa. Love you.
Yeah, love you too.
See, I got him to say, people. How do I end this? I'm trying to end the YouTube thing. Will end the meeting. Oh, stop.